Hey there, Half-Life 1 is turning 28 this year, and yet we are still getting new mods releasing that prove time and time again that the Half-Life community is one of the most talented and most creative ones out there. Today we're talking about Half-Life Insecure, a Half-Life 1 mod that lets the player experience the events of Half-Life 1 through yet another perspective, showing new sides of the Black Mesa facility and Zen in what is some of the best Half-Life 1 level design I've ever witnessed, with new gameplay mechanics and enemies. I'm gonna summarize, analyze and review this mod, while giving spoiler warnings when they're due. Even if there barely is a story, and I mean, we kinda all know what happens with Black Mesa already. Anyways, let's get into reviewing Half-Life Insecure. The tram ride of Half-Life 1 was used both as an intro to the story and Gordon Freeman, and also, primarily, to flex the capabilities of the Gold Source engine. These days, the purpose it serves is the same, just that it's now about showcasing new level design ability, NPC scripting ability, and all other talents instead, as well as introducing your character. In this mod we play as Andrew Cooper, a security officer, and the level design we get to see here looks very clean, with the addition of some immersive NPC interactions. Once you leave the tram, the mod is very similar to Blue Shift in relation to the intro, certain rooms even looking almost the same. The most standout feature here being the voice acting.
Nice of you to show up this morning, Cooper. Yeah, I know. Problems with the security system. We've been getting complaints all the time. Get a coffee ready and prepare to work all day long, man.
While this mod released with temporary AI voice lines, they have thankfully been replaced since, and sound awesome. Shout out to Ronald Hamrick and 23 Down.
Come on, Cooper. You know very well I can't let you pass without your gear on.
Something that's also fun that I always love is references to the events of other games or even mods, which this mod will do a lot. We get to see security cameras, just like in Blue Shift. But this time we get to see Gordon arriving and the characters of Decay at the start of their adventure. A quintessential event in every Half-Life mod set in Black Mesa is the Resonance Cascade, something this mod definitely succeeds in pulling off. We enter a tram to get to our workplace after getting our vest and gun, which is when all kinds of Xenians teleport in around the facility. Eventually, a Gargantua spawns in and wreaks havoc, including flipping over the player's tram. We then awake to the burning tram, still alive. It must be noted that this is very similar to the mod Half-Life Echoes, which also features a Gargantua flipping you over followed by a burning tram. I may add though that after the Blue Shift and now Echoes similarities, this marks the last time anything in this mod seems familiar from another game or mod. We get the knife here, and the introduction to combat is pulled off nicely. After a short stroll through Black Mesa and fighting against the first few zombies, we listen to a radio transmission. We hear a certain Bailey talk about a plan that he and other scientists have thought of. Everyone in Black Mesa should attempt to head to the surface, from which point they should try and head to the Ordnance Facility Sector D. Bailey mentions that a rescue operation is coming soon, and that the goal is to have everyone meet up there to explain to them what exactly happened. Unbeknownst to most everyone in the facility at this time, the rescue operation is of course not actually a rescue operation. Given this is the best thing Cooper knows to do right now though, this is exactly the path we will head towards, and will remain the goal for most of this mod. From this point, we have now fully finished the intro, leading us into the main part of this mod. All in all, a pretty good intro. I'll give more detailed thoughts on this later, but the intro remains the only piece of narrative this mod gives us for about 4 hours of this game. This is however balanced out by the fact that the mod is filled with great level design. Outside of minor complaints regarding readability in some very few levels, this mod otherwise consists of about 6 hours of peak level design. Notably, this mod manages to not be boring by literally cycling through every single aesthetic we've come to know from all the Half-Life 1 games and then some, including one inspired by the Half-Life 1 alpha. A thing that makes Half-Life 1 mods boring a lot of times, or just games in general, is them sticking to an aesthetic they're familiar with. And while that's great for a certain while, if you keep on repeating the same looking levels, it gets boring very quickly. Think about it. Why is it that you can, whenever you hear the name of a Half-Life 1 chapter, distinctly remember the look and vibe of those levels? Office complex. We've got hostiles. Questionable ethics. Even if you couldn't draw an accurate picture of exact corridors, they each had their own colors, architecture and feel to them. Sound design plays into this as well, of course. This mod understood how important of a concept this is and managed to do the same as Half-Life 1. Have each section be memorable. I still have an accurate image of many places in this mod in my head that I could probably draw down on paper. If I could draw, that is. Speaking of gameplay a little more, the mod thankfully uses the based Half-Life Opposing Force set of weapons, including the sniper, M249, Deagle and even the combat knife for that matter. Plus some potential secret ones. Combat in this mod felt well balanced, and with all the weapons you receive, you get to have a lot of varied fights. There is only one brand new gameplay addition in Insecure, at least before Zen, which is C4. It basically serves as an alternative keycard gameplay mechanic, which for the trade-off of making a bit less sense, because who would leave these C4 markers everywhere, gives you the satisfaction of blowing things up. Hell yeah. Also, I may note that every piece of C4 you detonate seems to be splitting atoms because good god the explosions are huge. For comparison, here's a real video of 4 pounds of C4, which is probably double of what Cooper uses in this mod. I think I know how they nuked Black Mesa now. Still, an enjoyable mechanic that is more interesting than just finding keycards to progress. Speaking of which, keycards are prevalent in this mod. Some of them used to unlock bonus rooms, some of them used to progress. Not sure if I was just unlucky, but in my case, multiple keycards didn't get picked up physically, but the game registered me as picking them up thankfully. No Half-Life mod comes without bugs, I guess. Overall, I enjoyed the keycard puzzles here actually. As mentioned, this mod does its best to connect itself to every Half-Life game, by having you look at events transpiring through security cameras at multiple times, including one mystery one, which is this blue HEV suit wearing person talking to someone in an elevator. If someone in the comments knows what mod this is a reference to, please share. On a similar note, meeting Bailey is also pretty cool. Getting saved by the military obviously isn't happening anymore, so now he tells us to reach the reactor core at Lambda Complex, that his buddies will meet us there. He also mentions Freeman, that part of the Lambda Complex group believes he's gonna be stopping the alien invasion, but that Bailey and his buddies don't believe it and rather wanna escape. To be fair to them, knowing what happens with Black Mesa, they will die if they don't escape. So they are kinda right. I actually really enjoyed the lore implications of the Lambda Complex scientists being split. But really, how could they not believe in the god on earth that is Gordon Freeman? Another cool thing this mod does narrative-wise is teasing the final boss fight for a long stretch of the game. We start seeing a Gonarch pretty early on, running around corners and disappearing. It either really has it out on us, or it has just now noticed us thanks to the little moments it gets glimpses at us. As I said, a showdown is on the horizon. Staying with cool moments, I really enjoyed this mine puzzle room, which leads to a question. Why the hell did the HECU place mines this way? How did they not blow themselves up in the process? The military arriving was also an awesome moment. Really shows the scale of how large this invasion is. Another cool moment was a knockout sequence, followed by a scene in which a marine tries getting information out of us. Thankfully, zombies get the better of them, allowing our escape. These are just some of the memorable moments in this mod, especially when including the final act of Zen. We arrive at the reactor labs, who happen to have their own teleporter. A scientist lore dumps for a solid 3 minutes. Summarize, we got teleporter, Barney from Blue Shift escaped this way already, and you gotta go to Zen to set up the teleporter correctly. Now, why Cooper specifically has to go instead of this other security guard is anyone's guess. I mean, we may know that Cooper is probably a billion times more capable, but they don't. Anyways, time to go to Zen. Zen itself starts off with a cameo of the all-familiar Gonarch again. It's definitely watching us. Zen goes through a few different environments, just like the regular world, and they are all astonishingly beautiful. If I could marry a skybox, it would be this one, or this one, or this one. There are also quite a few new gameplay mechanics here, mainly enemies. First we get exploding hound eyes, very similar to those seen in Black Mesa. They can either be very deadly or very useful if you manage to detonate them next to more enemies. We also get super versions of controllers and Vortigons, which are very annoying, especially the Vorts. The controllers simply fire more shots at once at a faster rate, making it a bit harder to dodge. As Vortigons are already undodgeable without cover, it makes it all the more frustrating that they are now moving at super speed. This is a similar mechanic to the purple Vortigons from Azure Sheep, which that elevator scene may have been a reference to. Someone in the comments will have figured it out probably. For a final new enemy we get the baby Gargantua and the eggs they hatch out of. This adds a new piece of lore to Gargantuas that is simply really fun. And if you've ever played Sven Co-op before, the free game that allows you to play Half-Life 1 in co-op, you will be familiar with these enemies from that game's custom campaign, which is where they were ported from. I love variety in enemies, and this was definitely a great addition. This mod is also the first time I actually enjoyed the Zen factory setting. I just really don't enjoy it in Half-Life 1 and any mod that tries to including it basically, including Black Mesa, though in that case I blame it mostly on overstaying its welcome. This mod however managed to make it fun, which is likely partially thanks to the introduction of lasers, the final new gameplay mechanic. You have to guide lasers to specific points and puzzle segments, which is similar to certain portal puzzles. A really fun mechanic. Overall, I really can't exaggerate how great Zen is in this mod, and especially how beautiful it is. Definitely one of my favorite gold source Zens, and it's definitely over that of Half-Life 1, even if that is admittedly not a very high bar. Eventually, a scientist tells us over the radio that we're running out of time. Black Ops will discover them soon. We find the device in what is definitely the most beautiful set piece of this mod, and face off against the Gonarch. This fight is a great final showdown in a beautiful arena. There are also more Xenians spawning in Durricate, including the new custom enemies. Definitely a worthy climax for this mod. After the Gonak is defeated and we enable the device, we head back through a teleporter to which we get the absolutely shocking ending, which will be spoilers. So first, my full review of this mod. Let me start off with the story. This mod doesn't have a lot going for it up until the very ending. I like the inclusion of lore that there are disagreements between the teams of scientists in the Lambda complex, but that is basically it outside of the ending that I'll get to after the review, which will be pretty cool, so stick around. It is to be said that there are only so many stories to be told in Black Mesa, but I also think there's some room left for a bit of innovation. Bailey was introduced, which is a nice touch. Adding characters is great, but his role was pretty minor. For my personal suggestion, what if there was perhaps another companion we meet? The idea isn't even to flip this entire mod on its head and make it become an elongated Rosenberg segment. But what if there was a scientist that managed to hack the intercoms and advises us every now and again through the corridors of Black Mesa, with a later plot point being that he or she gets kidnapped, and our goal becomes rescuing them for a map or two. Alternatively, it could simply be one of the scientists later in the lab, and we hear HECU storming their location over the intercom, to which we then arrive in the lab just as we do in the real mod and have to kill the HECU that stormed their complex. Obviously, this narrative alone wouldn't win any awards, but it could add a bit more tension outside of go to XYZ, which, admittedly, is a lot of what Half-Life 1 itself did consist of. Gameplay-wise, I really enjoyed this mod. One complaint I haven't mentioned yet being that the mod really doesn't do quick saves a bunch. There were many moments where I lost a solid 5 minutes of progress when I died, which may not sound like a lot, but actually think of that number in your head. 5 minutes of gameplay you're gonna have to do again. Outside of that though, it is very great. It added enough new mechanics, like the C4 and all the enemies in Zen, to make it stand out quite a bit and perhaps compensate for what the story may have lacked. Basically, the opposite of Half-Life Echoes. Just kidding, Half-Life Echoes is great. Speaking of which, if you know anything about Half-Life 1 modding, Field Intensity and Echoes might be names you're familiar with. Both mods I've made videos on before, which you should check out after this one in case you aren't familiar. Put very simply though, both of them are contenders for the best Half-Life 1 mods ever made. In one you play as a scientist, and in the other one as an HECU soldier. And I think that with the addition of Insecure, we complete the trifecta of a great Half-Life 1-like mod, a great Opposing Force-like mod, and now a great Blue Shift-like mod. Now we only need a good Decay-like mod. Anyways, in my opinion, with Insecure, we've definitely got an all-timer on our hands. And I definitely wouldn't argue with anyone who claims that this is the Blue Shift we never got. I would say I don't agree because of the lack of narrative, but Blue Shift is basically the same in that regard. Someone tells you where to go, there's no story until you find Rosenberg, you go to Zen to set up a device that will allow you and other scientists back at the facility to escape, you return. The only real difference is the ending. Speaking of which, let us get to that now. Spoiler alert if you want to experience this yourself. Once you arrive back, everyone is dead. Trying to head back to the main lab, the door is locked and behind it is the G-Man, accompanied by Race X's shock troopers. We get the same speech as Shepard did at the end of his adventure. We are a witness and he needs to close the case. Before he puts us into stasis, we get to see the nuclear explosion from yet another angle, which is another really great scene. I just love seeing any scene set at sunset. This could be a really cool wallpaper. And with Cooper in stasis, the mod ends. We likely won't ever see a return of this character, but who knows? Let me know what you think of this mod. Consider subscribing, and on screen right now you've got my videos on Echoes and Field Intensity. Definitely two of the ghosts of the Half-Life 1 modding scene that you shouldn't miss out on. Otherwise, thank you for watching.